That was a timing issue, like you told me. Okay. Hi, you guys are watching the Mac and Cheese podcast. I'm your host, Mary, and today's special guest will be Andy from Pack-A-Day podcast. You guys know Pack-A-Day pretty well. We've talked about them quite a bit on this show. I actually had the privilege to meet Andy at the draft this year, so that's pretty fun. We will be discussing the Green Bay Packers and the draft. Like I mentioned, I had the privilege of meeting Andy at the draft this season on Wednesday night, and that was super fun. Thank you so much for coming on again. I know I already told you off air, but thank you so much.
No, thanks so much for having me. And thanks so much for coming out to the draft party as well. That was awesome. It was great to meet you and so many people that came out for that event. So that was a ton of fun. And no, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here and just kind of talk some ball with you.
Yeah, I do have your autograph right behind me.
Yes, love it. Love it.
It turned out great, if you're wondering. It's so funny because Evan Williams is right on top of yours or something. Because it turns out I met him at the Nagler meet and greet.
That's awesome. I know he was going to be kind of out and about that night, so I'm glad you got to meet him too. He's awesome.
Yes. And for those that are not wondering, Andy, you get the first to know this. Evan did agree to come on the podcast as well.
So that's awesome. Great. Congratulations. That's super cool.
This is my first ever player that I'm doing. So,
it's always cool when you get that first player. It hits hard. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, because I actually have a special connection to Sammy Watkins, the former Packer wide receiver. A lot of my fans know this, but his cousin actually sold me my car.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay. So this is from a Bears fan. We have to talk about the Bears.
Fair enough.
Basically guaranteed.
We can make it work.
What do you think of the Bears offseason? Also, what do you think about the Bears draft?
Yeah, so a couple things. First of all, let's start offseason. They got the sort of coach that everyone's been wanting for years in Ben Johnson. Mm-hmm. Whether that works out, or it's just going to be, well, time will tell. But they got the guy, they got the brain power from the Lions offense, and should put their offense hopefully in a position to succeed. Everything with Chicago is solely based upon, can you make Caleb Williams successful?
Right.
And if you can do that, you're going to be in a good spot. If you can't, it's going to be another coach, another regime, another GM, etc. So everything has to be based around that. Getting a very smart offensive mind, and Ben Johnson's a good way to go about doing that. Mm-hmm. Then last year during the offseason, when they won it for the 40th consecutive time, they went and they got Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift and all these sort of weapons for the offense, Roma Dunze, etc. Right. And they ignored the trenches, and they sort of went and got their desserts before eating their vegetables, and it didn't work. Right. And it was terrible, and it set up Caleb for failure, frankly. And now this year, they spent the entire offseason eating their vegetables, improving the interior of their offensive line, 3 solid additions to the interior, which is going to make things easier on Caleb. Right. And then they went out and got a couple nice pieces on the defensive line as well. And then in the draft, they were able to then, because they ate their vegetables in free agency, have a little dessert. And they go and get Loveland at tight end, and then Luther Burden, who was one of my favorite players in the draft, at wide receiver. So you look at their roster, it's much more well-rounded. They've got an offensive-minded head coach. Liked what they did at defensive coordinator. I just think overall they had a pretty well-rounded offseason. Now, can they Bears that up? Yeah, they've Bears this stuff up in the past on numerous occasions. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything yet. But I thought they've had a much smarter approach to this offseason than they've had in the past.
Okay. That's from a Bears fan. So
totally fair.
Yeah. The Jair situation has come up many times on the show already. What do you think is going to happen to him? Do you think a new deal is going to come into play? What
do you think, Mary? Because your guess is as good as mine at this point.
I don't know. We've speculated multiple times that he's going to get traded at the draft. That clearly didn't happen. I was thinking to the Ravens fans. I was thinking to the Ravens it was going to happen because Ravens always need a cornerback, and also Jair played with Lamar Jackson in college.
Sure.
So I thought that, but I don't know anymore at this point. Like, we did hot takes for a free agency show. One of the hot takes was Jair wasn't going to be on the team. Clearly, I don't know. It's up in the air. Like,
yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't have a good feel for it anymore. Everything that's said from 1265, from players to coaches to the front office, it feels like he's gone. Like, there's nothing that would lead me to believe that he's back. Yet we're getting multiple reports that they're working towards him potentially coming back. And
exactly.
Like, Yeah, I mean, I would have expected something to happen by now. It hasn't. I mean, I remember talking to Rob Domofsky on the radio show a while back, and he was like, his agent and his side of things, meaning Jair's, are
Right.
surprised that this wasn't done months ago, and like they haven't figured out. And that
Mhm.
conversation with Rob was well over a month ago. So,
Oh,
I just at this point, I'm really at a loss. Like nothing
yeah.
would surprise me. If he's back, I wouldn't be stunned. If he's gone, I wouldn't be stunned. I
Mhm.
still tend to believe he's not back with the team, but man, I don't know. I wish I had a better feel for it at this point.
I mean, it's the same thing with the Jaden Reed thing. I'm not sure if you saw that with his agent today or yesterday. It's like,
Yeah,
what's gonna happen with that too? I'm like,
I don't think
okay.
anything is there. That's my read on it.
Okay.
Is I just feel like probably what happened is one of two things. Either, and I think probably the first one here is Jaden Reed and his agents, or Jaden Reed probably goes to his agent and says, "Hey, can you look into this? Like, what's going on? They
Mhm.
already have Christian and Romeo and myself
Right.
and Dontavian Wicks, and they signed McCole Hardman in free agency. They've got
Right.
Bill Melton and Malik Heath,
Yeah.
and now they just went out and spent a first and a third round pick on wide receiver."
Right.
He probably goes to his agent and says, "Can you just figure out what's going on here?" So he goes to his agent.
Oh.
Agent goes to the Packers and says, "Hey, what's going on here?" And they're like, "Don't
Mhm.
worry about it. We love Jaden. He's in a good spot. Don't even second guess it." Board fell that way. The two best players on our board in the first and third rounds just happened to be wide receivers. It wasn't what
Okay.
we were expecting to do. Plus Christian's injured. Plus Romeo's on the last year of his deal. Don't
Right.
think anything of it.
Okay.
Jaden is still one of our top players. And then so Drew Rosenhaus goes back and says to Jaden, and then tells like, "Hey Schefter, can you put this out as well?" Saying, you
Right.
know, everything's good with Jaden, and then it looks like to Jaden, like, look what they did for me, like
Mhm.
yada yada yada. So I think that's probably what happened. The other reading of it would be Goody is just being much more proactive with this stuff now, and probably was not expecting to take a receiver in the first and third rounds,
Right.
and just kind of making the rounds and saying like, "Hey, I just want you to know we still value you a ton. You're a huge part of this offense and this team. You don't have anything to worry about." And then again, it just kind of gets its way around. But I don't think there's anything here at the moment.
Okay. What are your early predictions on who will make the biggest positive impact among the 8 draft picks? Also the same question, but for undrafted free agents.
Yeah. So from a draft pick standpoint, I would start. I mean, it's lame, it's cliche, it's boring, but I would still go with Matthew Golden. I think he's going
Okay.
to be put in a position to go out and be not only successful, but be put in a position to make an impact. I think sooner rather than later, especially with
Okay.
Watson out, they're going to need sort of that deep threat. But I mean,
No, yeah.
I think Belton will compete. I think Savion Williams will get opportunities. I think Sorrell and Oliver are both going to be in the rotation as a pass rusher. So
Okay.
as just edge defenders. So I think there's going to be, I think Brinson's going to potentially be in the rotation as a defensive tackle. So I think multiple of
Yeah.
these guys are going to have opportunities, but I would still go with Golden as the one who makes the most impact. As far as UDFAs, it's an interesting conversation. So there's sort of three that you would kind of look at. And the first would be, Stackhouse at defensive
Right.
tackle. He's gonna have to beat out Colby Wooden. Now we heard from yesterday, or from Halfley on Monday, that they really liked their defensive tackle room. I wasn't a huge fan of Stackhouse on tape. He's fine, but I didn't
Okay.
love his tape. So I think he is in a position where he has the opportunity to earn it, though. So we'll see if he can kind of get involved in that conversation. The other is Jonathan Baldwin, who they
Okay.
gave the biggest signing bonus to of all their UDFAs. I
Mhm.
think just with the depth at corner, and depending on what happens with Jair and how many people they have there as a possibility, he could potentially be somebody that makes the team. And if so, maybe gets involved in special teams. And
Mhm.
then Jamon Johnson would probably be the other one, who I think if you just look at the linebacker depth chart, he could easily find his way into that number 6 linebacker spot. Now, I think they probably only keep 5, but he has an opportunity maybe to get himself, called up on the active roster a couple weeks and maybe make an
Okay.
impact on special teams. So those are probably the ones I would go with. Amar Johnson was probably my favorite of the UDFAs, but
Okay.
I think it's going to be a lot tougher for him to make the team. And then even if he somehow finds a way, that you would be able to, actually have him get on the field with all the running backs that they have.
Okay. No, I agree. It's a tough I agree with Matthew Golden. So I actually interviewed a Texas Longhorn fan recently, and she basically like walked me through Golden's play of the game in Texas and also Sorrel.
Sure.
So like the energy is pretty much the same, it sounds like, from Lambeau to Texas.
Yes. Yeah. The fan energy for sure. And just, I think the energy that those two are going to bring from Texas into Green Bay as well is going to be apparent. I think both of those guys are very exciting.
Right. So James wants to know, what is your honest opinion about the offense compared to the division? Like, are we top, second?
Yeah, I think this is the really unique question of just the division going into this season.
Right.
I couldn't get them anywhere below third. I mean, I would put Chicago behind just based on where Caleb
Yeah.
is at. But I mean, the interesting thing here is Detroit's been this juggernaut on offense, but you
Right.
lose Ben Johnson. So that how do they respond to that? They also lose
Exactly.
Zeitler at guard, which is going to be a little bit different as well. But I
Yeah.
still expect them to be a very good offense and have
Okay.
all the pieces that they need. I'd probably put them at one just by default, but
Right.
I am interested to see what it looks like without Johnson. I'd probably put Green Bay at two, just because I think they go out, they get Golden, they get Savion Williams, Musgrave is coming back healthy, Marshawn
Right.
Lloyd coming back healthy. You do lose Watson for a chunk of the year, but hopefully you get him back at some point. I think overall, and then of course Jordan's healthy, where he wasn't at
Right.
any point this past year.
Agreed.
I would probably go Green Bay two. I could probably go Minnesota three, but again, a lot's going to be hinging and dependent upon JJ McCarthy and his development. And then
Right.
number four, I'd go Chicago. But I think, any of these are really up for grabs. And I think if you said any of them got to spots 1, 2, 3, or 4, I could see a world in which that exists, in large part due to we don't know what this Lions offense looks like without Ben Johnson. We don't know what Caleb Williams and that offense now looks like with better offensive line play and with an actual smart offensive mind
Right.
leading it. And we don't know
Yeah.
what McCarthy's going to be. And Jordan Love is still a little bit of a mystery box himself. So I
Right.
think that's the beauty of this division right now.
That's a good point. Yeah, you brought up a good point, because what are the Lions going to look like now with their new coach and stuff?
Yep.
It's going to be interesting.
Up for
Okay.
grabs.
Yeah, it's going to be. So, did the draft at Lambeau exceed your expectations? I know a lot of people said it didn't.
Oh, they said it didn't?
Yeah, because they
Interesting.
expected more fans, is what it was.
Interesting. That's interesting because I know the NFL had expected fewer fans. Like they thought it was going to be less than that, and it exceeded the NFL's estimates by far.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it
So
was
that's
actually well above expectations on the NFL's end.
yeah, that's
It's
cool.
interesting. So a couple things. I think that number would have even been higher if weather had cooperated on Friday a
Right.
little bit better. I think
Yeah.
that
Agreed.
definitely played a little bit of a factor in that
Mhm.
number maybe being a little bit lower. So
Right.
as far as like numbers go, the numbers felt about right.
Okay.
I will say I expected that amount of people to look bigger on TV. Like I still thought it looked awesome, but I
Yeah.
expected that it to like that many people would fill like that plus like the full Titletown district behind it.
Right.
Plus like I thought it was just going to be like overflow for like blocks. Like that's what I was expecting it to look like. So
Yeah.
I just had the wrong expectation of what that amount of people looks like in my head. I didn't think that little like square could hold like 200,000 people, but it did.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
no, I thought from what Green Bay did in its entirety of that draft, I thought not only met but exceeded expectations. I thought everything went off without a hitch. I thought the fans were fantastic. I think there was only like 3 or fewer arrests, and it was of nothing of major
Yeah.
note or anything like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think overall, I think they did a tremendous job. The national viewpoint was that Green Bay crushed it, and so much so that now there's expectation that Green Bay will at some point probably host a draft again at some point. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think they did a tremendous job.
No, so I heard one arrest out of everyone.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
might have
pretty
been it.
big.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
I
I think it was like
agree.
fans of the same team that were fighting with you. Like it was like two like Vikings fans or two fans of the same team that were fighting against each other for some reason.
Oh,
I don't know.
wow.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I mean, behind me on the second day, I think, when it was, like, freezing cold, like, there was, like, people fighting for those T-shirts.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
because they were throwing T-shirts out of a T-shirt wet gun, and people were jumping up for those and fighting those, and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but
I mean, you're gonna get some of that. Anytime you gather 200,000 people for anything, there's always going to be, a couple idiots in the group. But overall, I thought
right.
very, very well, well done
Yeah.
job all the way around.
I will also say, I don't know if you saw this, there was a lot of pushing, I know for sure.
Oh, really?
Like,
Yeah, I did
coming
not.
out, because so I left after the Packers drafted Anthony Belton on the second day,
Got it.
because it was cold, it was rainy still.
Yeah,
It
understandable.
was bad. But I stayed until the Matthew Golden, and people were after the Packers picked, it looked like everyone was rushing out,
Gotcha.
like no one stayed for the rest of it, so that was a big thing.
Gotcha.
And also, like, when Tom announced the pick during the third round, which was incredible. Thank you, NFL, for announcing that. However, I don't know if you know this, Andy. ESPN did not show Tom announcing the pick.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crappy.
So I've been getting already messages like, did you record it? So yes, we did film it, and it's up on the channel. So
Awesome.
we were actually the ones that shouted the Grossi chant for Tom.
That's awesome.
My group was the ones that did it. We had to. Exactly. Do you expect any surprise cuts during training camp?
I think there's two to monitor. The two would be Kingsley Nigbari and Colby Wooden. I think.
Oh, what? Wait, why those two?
So here's where I'm at with both of those. I think both of them. Well, Nigbari is in year 4. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent the following year. His salary bumped up to $3 million over what it was going to be like right around $1 million. So he went up a couple $1 million based on performance escalators. And then I just think you figure Rashawn Gary's going to make the team. LVN's going to make the team. You've got Brenton Cox still, and then you go and get Baron Sorrell and Oliver as you know, there you have 5 guys right there that if you're going to only keep 5, and they could keep 6, but if you're going to only keep 5, I think you're at the point where Enigbari is going to have to earn his way onto this team. And for me, Enigbari was also one of the more just kind of underwhelming or under the radar disappointing players of 2024. Just didn't really have a great season, in my opinion. So I just think it's more of like, this is no longer, yes, you made the team, you were in it, you know, a pretty decent part of it for the past few years, but I think he's gonna have to really go and earn his spot. And I'm not saying he's going to, by the way. I'm just saying, like, I think if you said that there was a surprise cut, I would say, like, I think Enigbari would be in that conversation. Now, Colby Wooden is a 3rd year, and he was a 4th round pick. But through 2 years, I mean, he hasn't really done anything of note. He's a bad run defender, and he is somebody that has not made a big impact as a pass rusher. As a 3 technique, he's behind both Devontae Wyatt and Carl Brooks. Kenny Clark can play 3 technique. Then they go and get Brinson, who can play 3 technique. So I do think that there is like some redundancy there into what he brings to the table. So it's just, again, more of like, you're in year 3. Yes, you were a 4th round pick. You got kind of a ride, not a free ride, but you might be like, you got a roster spot for 2 years. Now it's time to go and prove it. So to me, it's not, again, I'm not predicting either are going to get cut. Just if you said that there was a surprise cut, I would say Colby Wooden or Kingsley Nigbari could be in that conversation.
I'm surprised that you didn't say McCole Hardman. That's one that's a lot of
people. I guess to me that would be a little bit less surprising. Just because based on his contract, I think he's going to have to earn his way on the team. And I also think you get to the point too where if you told me right now, Golden, Savion Williams, Wicks, Dobbs, Reed, they just went with those 5 and cut Bo Melton. They cut Hardman and they cut Malik Heath. They cut all 3, knowing that they could probably get 2 guys back in the practice squad. I would not be stunned by that at all. So I think that there's a lot of possibility of some of the things that they could do at wide receiver that'd be just a little bit creative.
But could Hardman go to special teams though? Because that's what they're planning on doing with him.
Punt return is going to have to be his golden ticket onto the team. If he can show that he's the best punt returner and that he can make it from that standpoint, then I think he's got a leg up on Bo Melton and on Malik Heath for that final and 6th potential wide receiver spot.
If they do that, which they have in the past, correct?
Correct.
They've been doing 6,
very normal. Right? Yep. It was, again, to me, it would only be like if they liked all 3 of them and didn't differentiate, you're going to get 2 of those guys back on the practice squad, and probably Heath and Melton if you wanted to. So that's just one of the things that, again, you kind of think about of like, you're not going to lose all 3. You're going to get at least one of them, if not 2 of them back in the practice squad. And you can probably feel pretty good about it.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, like practice squad wise. That's a good point.
Yep.
Okay. As we know, schedule leaks have already been going out.
Correct.
Are you surprised by any of them so far?
No surprises yet. Surprised there's actually not, as of right now, I've only seen 2 for Green Bay. I'm surprised there's actually not more than that out. That's probably the only surprise I have, but no surprises so far. Thankfully, not thankfully, I shouldn't say that way, but just no international play. I was actually excited to go to Ireland. If it was going to be in Ireland, I was going to go. So I wouldn't say thankfully, but just maybe from a competitive standpoint, there might be some advantages to not playing in Ireland.
Right.
But overall, no surprises as of yet.
So who do you think we play week 1? Let's say it's at home. Who would you want to play? Because I know a lot of fans want us to play at home week 1.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a home game week 1, I don't always love division games being early on, if I'm being honest, just because they mean so much. but there would be something Bears Packers week 1. Even if it's whether it's a noon game, 3:30, whatever it might be, Sunday Night Football, Monday, like I don't really care. I think week 1 Bears Packers, it just kind of feels right every single if you told me that Bears Packers would open week 1 at Lambeau like every year, I would have no issue with that whatsoever.
Right.
It just feels like football is back. Bears Packers, let's go. So I would probably say that one, but you could probably twist my arm into a couple it's something simple, like it's a weird game, but like Packers Bengals would feel like all right, this is a AFC NFC matchup. It's not one that's going to decide your conference tiebreakers or things like that, but it would also be an epic game just to test where both of those teams are going in to start the season. Joe Burrow versus Jordan Love. Like I could easily be talked into that as well.
That'd be fun, especially knowing that TJ Slayton is coming back too for a game. That's going to be interesting how that goes.
Yeah, I just have to yes, Bengals are at home. I had to double check that because I knew they played the Bengals, but I had to double check. But yes, they are at home, so that would theoretically work.
That would be interesting. Like TJ Slayton coming back home for a little bit.
There you go.
And playing a game. I don't know if people would want that though. It's like, okay, so if we were away, would you want the Steelers? I know Steelers is a popular one for week 1. Possible Aaron Rodgers matchup.
Yeah, that could
absolutely be the Aaron Rodgers possibly.
I mean, you've got to put it on like Sunday Night Football or something.
Right.
If it's away, I think that would work. Can't be Packers Cowboys because Cowboys play the opener on Thursday night.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't really want to go to Denver week 1. I don't really want to go to Arizona. No. Cleveland doesn't really fit.
Yeah, I know.
Giants, I don't know. So yeah, and we obviously know it's not the Bears because they play the Bears later on.
And we know it's not the Eagles too, because Eagles is.
So I would say, I guess Steelers, that would make some sense. Roger, I mean, hey, if you know Rodgers going to be healthy week 1, you don't necessarily know. Say, I guess, yeah, I think if it were a road game, I'd say Packers Steelers week 1, Rodgers versus the Packers potentially, and then if not, then I think again one of those like if it's at home, Bengals or maybe the Bears would be great games.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know we're short on time a little bit.
I've got about 7 more minutes if you need it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
We might. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Because we're kind of going. I told you these questions are easy for you.
No, you're good.
So, okay. So what got you started in podcasting? Let's start with that one first.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the truth is I had really no interest in becoming a podcaster, so to speak.
What?
I was writing at the time, and I knew in the back of my mind that I needed to do podcast. Like I needed to do a podcast, whether that was like me being a guest on a show weekly or something, or, me just doing something where I did it like once a month or whatever. I need, like everyone was doing some sort of podcast. Right. So I knew if I was going to take a step in any, positive direction with what I was doing, I was probably gonna have to do something podcast related. Then I started like just kind of throwing some ideas around of like, what could I possibly do? And the New York Times, The Daily, where they took 5 days a week, they did a daily episode on one news topic. I'm like, that would be a really cool way to do a Packers podcast. Do it 5 days a week, have it be one topic per day, for about 30 minutes. I think, we still have the intro like 20 minutes a day. Of course, we never really follow that whatsoever. It's more of like an inside joke at this point. But, one topic a day, 5 days a week. And then my thought process on top of that would be, I would do one day. And then at the time I was thinking I think Dusty Evely could do one day. Zach Jacobson could do one day. Matub could do one day. And I was like kind of having like this idea of like each of us would be responsible for one day. And then we would have 5 days total. And then we'd have like kind of like a New York Times / the Daily Packer style podcast. And then I thought of the name Pack-A-Day. And I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect. Like it's such a perfect name for what I want this vision to be. And with me, if I don't do something, I have to just do it right when I think of it, because otherwise I'll never do it. I'll just consistently put it off. So as soon as I thought of the name, within about 30 minutes, I went over to my computer, tweeted out, who wants to do a podcast with me? And I got over 200 responses of people who wanted to do the podcast. And to this day, the hardest part of the entire podcast was taking that 200 people and narrowing it down to about 22-ish people. And we ended up with not just 5 days with one person each day. We ended up with 7 or 8, 9 different teams that were together. Some went every other week, some went every week. And we had everything filled out. And even as that started, I'm like, man, I'm going to get flaked out on so many of these and I'm going to just have to do every day, which now I do anyway. But I didn't know how it was going to go. And mean, to this day, there's been like a handful in like 7 years, like 5 days, maybe in 7 years where somebody hasn't got me a podcast where I was like not expecting it. Like it has
Oh,
been
wow.
so few and far between. So the team has been amazing. It's been the best part of it, but that was sort of the initial journey. And it just obviously just grew exponentially from there.
That's crazy. So, who is someone that you haven't talked to on your podcast that you wanted to before, like an NFC or an NFL player?
Yeah. So I don't know if a player, like a few people that come to mind that I would love to have on. Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst would be one. Like I would love to talk to Brian. I think that would be a tremendously fun conversation. Matt LaFleur would be a ton of fun. And then like it's like from a media standpoint, just
Or like a
because
player too.
yeah, from like a media standpoint, like Kay Adams would be somebody that I would love to add on. I had the opportunity to have Mina Kimes on. I think Kay would be awesome just with her, again, kind of Packers knowledge and being from Wisconsin. From a player standpoint, that's a really interesting question. I think for me, I'd say like maybe somebody like Xavier McKinney or like former player like Charles Woodson. Those I think would be Tremont Williams would be another one. Those would probably be on the top of my list.
Yeah. Can you break the rumor about Russell Douglas coming back to the Packers? Can you do that for me?
What do you mean break it?
That he's not coming back, because I've seen so many of those tweets.
Yeah, he's today as we're recording this, he's meeting with Seattle. So I don't think he's going to be back in Green Bay. I would be pretty stunned if he's back in Green Bay. But
I mean, he can't though,
what do you mean?
because if I'm correct, you can tell me I'm wrong. You can tell Google it's wrong. Google has something that you can't bring back a player after the 2 years that he's been traded.
Oh, there is a rule in regards to that as
Right.
well. I'd have to look at you are correct in that there is a rule.
Okay.
There's a certain period of time after you trade them that you cannot
Right.
bring them back.
It
That's
says
a great
2
point.
years
I haven't
on
even
Google.
looked at what that time frame is, but you might be right that it's still applicable.
So Google says 2 years.
Okay, so is
And
that 2 seasons? Like, is it 2?
I don't know. That's confusing.
Yeah, I'd have to double check on that one. I am aware of the rule now that you bring it up, but I have not
Okay.
looked into it. Either way, I don't expect him to be back one way or the other. But yeah, I do know that there is a rule once you trade a player that there's a time frame in which there's like basically a leeway period before you can bring him back again.
Well, I mean, no matter what, it's too early though, because it would be 2 years this season. It would be like
Unless they considered like the 2 seasons being like the season in which he was traded in, and that counts as one season. And then
maybe.
last year was the second season. So within 2 seasons, like this would potentially now be season 3. So I'd have to look at it closer and look at the CBA and figure out what the exact rule is. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's a good point. I'd have to look into that further if there was interest there.
Because I've already seen that report so many times with that happening, and I'm like, I don't see happening, guys. As much as I would love it.
He also had just a rough year last year.
I would love it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either way.
Okay, so you just want to hurt my heartstrings. Got it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm at this point, I don't care. Like, I know some big Bills fans, and they loved him.
Yes, and again, he is visiting Seattle as we speak. Well, at least today in some capacity.
Yeah, that's what my friend told me too earlier. Okay, what do you think the record for the Packers will be in division and winning?
4-2.
Knowing the tough schedule.
4-2. They're going to beat the Bears twice. They'll split with the Lions, split with the Vikings.
Oh,
they'll go 4-2 this year. That's where I'm at.
Okay, but regular season though. Like,
I thought you said division.
It's both.
So regular season, I think they end up 11-6. I think they end up 11-6, somewhere between 10-7 and 11-6. But I'll go 11-6.
That's interesting. Okay. And our schedule is tough, as people know it.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
One of the toughest on the road, especially. Home is not bad, but it's the road schedule.
Yeah, I mean, just everything is some level of difficult. Like your division games are always tough. We talked about how tough that's going to be. At home, you've got Eagles, Super Bowl champs. Washington was in the championship game last year. The Ravens are exceedingly tough, and I expect the Bengals to be tough as well. The only sort of like kind of what I would say, and there's nothing that's a gimme, but Panthers at home is probably your only kind of quote unquote kind of easy game. Then away again, division's going to be tough. Dallas, I expect to win, but I still think that's going to be a tough game. Pittsburgh, especially if Aaron Rodgers is there, that's not going to be the super easy. It's going to be a hyped up game. Denver in the altitude is never easy. Arizona in the heat's never easy. So the only two I would put there again is Giants in New York, which their defense is going to be tough this year, and then Cleveland and Cleveland. So to me, there's like 3 easy-ish games. And again, we never know what the teams are going to look like when you actually play them. Teams could be harder or easier than we expect. Last year, we didn't expect the 49ers and Dolphins to be basically, walkover opponents by the time you faced them. But on paper, no, it looks like a very tough schedule.
You're right, because Arizona's hot. I was recently by the stadium. It's super hot. I was in there in February, so it's hotter now, technically. It's just crazy. Like, who knows?
For sure. You never know what's going to happen in those weird weather games.
Okay. Last question, I promise. Okay. So with the selection of Matthew Golden, how do you think it will enhance Jordan Love's game in 2025?
Yeah, I just think it gives him another unique option. And I think anytime you can have different flavors of wide receivers and just different options of what to kind of throw out there, I think it's an advantage. And when you have a speed wide receiver, those guys just tend to be a little bit more just open. Like they find ways to get open a little bit more with frequency. And obviously you have the ability to attack down the field as well. So to me, I just think it's going to give him another unique option in this offense. So will Savion Williams. And I just think it's going to create a lot of competition in that room as well. And when you've got competition, hopefully the cream rises to the crop and everyone kind of steps up and is a little bit better. If you're dropping passes, running the wrong routes, not blocking, you're not going to stay on the field with Matt as coach. So everyone better be really doing everything the way that they're supposed to, or there's definitely going to be, I think, some consequences when it comes to playing time. So I think just Golden's presence in and of itself is going to elevate everyone else's game.
Ooh, I love that. Was from a Raiders fan, by the way.
Excuse me, by the way, had to sneeze.
No, you're fine. That was from a Raiders fan.
All right, I like it.
They're all sending me different questions for you, and I'm like, wait, what?
So I said, sounds like a fantasy football question, maybe then.
I mean, might be. I don't know if they actually play. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
No, not off the top of my head. Just like how long have you been obviously doing this? Like I know you've been doing it for a little while now.
This is actually we started in November of 2023.
Okay. So it's been a hot second.
Yeah. I mean, we've had Tom Grossi. We've had the Tom Grossies. We've had you, obviously. It's funny that you mentioned Dusty's name. We actually interviewed Dusty.
Awesome. He's the best.
Yeah. And we actually tried meeting up with him at the draft and it just didn't work out. We have Aaron Nagler coming on. We have Tom Grossi again.
That's amazing.
I'm trying to get like all the big names as much as possible.
Do it. That's how you get again more of a following and just again get some more recognition on it. So that's awesome. Exactly. Congratulations.
We worked with Brandon Perna from That's Good Sports. He's a big Broncos fan. We've worked with him. We've worked with Urinating Tree, one of the biggest Steelers podcasters that you guys know.
Love that.
And we're actually working with Clayton from Packers Total Access soon.
Oh, cool. I've talked to him as well. Yep.
And I'm friends with Nick Falcadas actually too. So
nice.
It like works out that way.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you so much again for coming on. We so much appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. We'll definitely have to do it again sometime. And I really appreciate the time.
Yeah. I'm going to end the recording really quick.
Awesome. And I do have to run